Hello everyone, it's Lennon. I want to chat about the other world with you today, okay? I'm going to light this garden sage to get me in the right mood for this chat, okay? Halo that shit up. Now recently I've been thinking about shamanism, okay, and witchcraft and how they kind of intersect. A lot of my witchcraft stems directly from shamanism or a shamanistic practice, right? It's not shamanism. And really, a lot of my witchcraft stems from shamanism only because of the primitivism that I like my witchcraft to survive in. I like the concept of bone. I like the concept of animistic framework, right? Now, I'm not saying that I would like us to shoot back to the, hunter-gatherer era. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that part of those spiritual practices seems to be what I like the most in terms of my witchcraft, right? More the primitivism than the modernism. Those aspects fill my soul in terms of my craft. Like, I want to work with the bones and the earth in a way that, and commune also in a way that is bridging some sort of gap, okay? And so it got me thinking about the other world and trance work and hedge writing and path walking and stuff like that, right? Now, I came across this Reddit post, as one does, okay? The internet's not always our friend. And it said that just thinking something, just using your imagination, is not, like having a visualization practice isn't hedge writing, right? Just having this like intense visualization practice, like where you have this good technique that you use, and it has flourished into a visualization, possibly even a meditative practice, that's still not hedge writing. So that sent me down a lot of rabbit holes, because this visualization, meditation, hedge writing, hedge witchery are the shamanistic parts of my practice that I like the best as an imaginative witch. Okay, I'll say this, I'm an imagination witch. So I was like, God, what does this mean for me? Am I not a hedge writer? I still consider myself one. But the purpose of hedge writing is for entrance into the other world and to astral project, if we're using more psychological terms, right? So I'm like, okay, am I in the other world or am I just in my imagination? Now, up until this point, I didn't really care. I didn't care. I'm like, I don't care if I'm in my imagination. If it looks different than my reality in this highly intense visualization technique, I come out the other end of it and I'm in this world, that's a portion of the other world to me. Now, the concept of the other world is very Celtic, okay? Very Celtic in nature. And the concept of the other world and hedge writing in Celtic history and mythology, I'll say, is they've broken it down into 3 realms. So you have the upper realm, lower realm, and middle realm. I semi-subscribe to this paradigm of this 3-realm paradigm, but I also like the concept of parallel universes, other dimensions, and what those are in terms of quantum mechanics, and physics, I would say, possibly even astrophysics. I'm an amateur in all of that, but I like fitting them into certain frameworks that way. So it can't just be those 3 realms for me. I digress. If just visualizing isn't hedge writing, walking between the worlds, these 3 worlds, is really about crossing the hedge, leaving your body and your spirit crossing the hedge to gain and to get to the other side. Okay. Have the spiritual turtles made it to the other side of the road. The other side of the road being the otherworld. And there's doorways and portals and things like that. And most people venture and find beings and fetches and whatever in all these other realms. Okay. If you want some information about like spirit flight, then I recommend Broom at Midnight by Roger J. Horne and Ambrosia's book of Witchflight by our very own Jasmyne Ambrosia. There's some information in those books that I think is probably needed for y'all. Okay. And then there's one, Land, Sea, and Sky by Gede. Theo Gede Parma. I'm pretty sure that book's out of print now, but I'm fairly certain you could get it like Internet Archive. Or on eBay or thrift books or something like that. But that's a really good book too, to map out these other realms and to figure out if you know the portals, if they're different every time, and if they're the same every time, is this how you enter the other world every time? What's the initiation process? Stuff like that. So there's just like a lot of nuance when we're talking about the other world. However, this one Reddit post had me thinking, okay, so if I'm not physically leaving my body and projecting my spirit to the other world, it's not technically hedge writing. Maybe in the Celtic framework, maybe inside of the Celtic mythology, maybe inside of the Celtic witchcraft, it might not be. I don't agree. The way that my practice has morphed and shifted, and the way that I've added to the realms and taken away things from the realms and like shifted, and maybe this is controversial to say. Say here's the Celtic framework of the 3 realms, otherworld, whatever. This is where it started, right? I've taken that history and that mythology, and I've kind of morphed it like this into what I consider realms, portals, ways to get there, ways to visualize, the ways and techniques in which it's easier to do each time, what works for me. I've morphed the mythology and history into something that's solely mine, right? I still consider that hedge writing. Even if at the end of the day, someone could just tell me it's just visualization. It's just in your head. Okay. Now, trance work is a little bit different. Okay. Again, a shamanistic technique, that has a lot of prehistoric practicality. Okay. But trance work is just the ability to alter your state of consciousness, which is ultimately the entire goal of magic anyway, I believe. Like the goal, if magic had a goal, which we could argue that it doesn't, because it's just not, it's like, it's just there. If we put sentience on magic, then there's a whole bunch of rabbit holes, you know. If you want more information about magic, I do have my manifesto coming out pretty soon, so pick it up, okay? A lot of information in that book. Now we alter our states of consciousness for the purpose of venturing to these realms because certain spirits we wish to commune with dwell there. You know, not just for the hell of it, not just because we just like, oh, let's pop over to the other side. No, it's usually for genuine intentions. We want to commune with something over there. I guess historically that would be accurate. Historically, that would be the reason. You don't want to just go over there, pop over there, and just like see what you can see. I disagree with that too. I'm not always in the mood to talk to them spirits. You know, I just want to be here. I just want to be here. And I'm just gonna sit here and watch. You know? I'm like a watcher. Just y'all do what y'all do. You know, I just want to sit here and mess with this plant that looks nothing like that's in my reality. You know, I don't know. And I'm not saying every time is like that. Sometimes you do have an intention. You probably should. But the senses themselves is what matters to me. And they get hoisted to this other world, these other realms, with, yes, 1 foot in each realm as like a tether. And sometimes people say that the portal itself, the initiatory portal to be able to gain access, is usually by some kind of incantation or calling out to one of these spirits or deities even that may dwell in the other world. Say I make up the incantation. I've made it up, right? But I did it in a way that was a semi-altered state, not enough to go into the other world, but a semi-altered state, enough to call it a channeled incantation. I still made that shit up, right? So then I use the incantation to gain access, and it makes a portal, okay? And then I swim to the other side, to the other realm. How is that not me making it all up anyway? Because I did. It came from my brain. I made up the poem. I made up the incantation. I called out in a devotional, intentional way to the spirits that dwell there, maybe a specific spirit. Again, read Ambrosia's book of Witchflight. There's something to be said about actually stepping into the realms, and whether you need someone to hold your hand, whether you're going to do it all by yourself, all by your lonesome, make up your incantations, make up the portal yourself. Okay? It's not like the Otherworld has this book, right? I've said this a lot lately on the channel. There's not like there's one book that says this is the incantation that forms the portal to get here. This is the spell that you need to use. These are the ingredients. This is the magical recipe. This is the blah, 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 blah. That doesn't exist. So now I guess a lot of this is what a lot of people consider verified personal gnosis, because there's so many accounts of the Otherworld, just like someone's after death experience. Okay. There's so many, overlapping stories that people are like, something similar happened to me. There must be some truth in this, right? So when it becomes verified. But if you're just doing your own thing and you've never known or talked or spoke to anyone that's had a similar story to you, it doesn't mean your story's invalid. That's how I feel. I will say, I guess I do have an opinion about these portals. If it's not an incantation and it's not a direct summoning of a spirit that you know dwells in the Otherworld, the places of portal, the places of power would be natural places of power anyway. Okay? For instance, if the Celtic framework has such emphasis in land, sea, sky, then of course the seashore, where you're on land facing the sea with the sky above you, that's a portal. So all shoreline is a magical place of power, right? Question mark. You can be anywhere in the world, just as long as you step onto the sand, water, and sky. So now for me, that's lake. I'm a lake girl. I like lake life. Not really, I'm not close enough to a sea. But when I go to the lake, right, the lake is spring-fed. It's a huge, one of the largest spring-fed lakes. So we have spring-fed lake. I've got 1 foot on the sand, 1 foot in the water, and the sky above me, and the forest around me. That's a place of power. I don't always utilize it for a place of power. That's another thing. The place of power is a place of power regardless if you're using it. So that can be confusing to people too. It's like, I have to designate this spot as the place of power. No, you don't have to do shit. It's gonna be a place of power whether you do anything at it or not. That lake, that shoreline at my lake that I go to all the time in the summer, is a place of power whether I'm doing any kind of magical working or hedge writing, trance work at all. You know? I don't have many opportunities to be there by myself. I got my whole damn family with me most of the time. You know? And not just my extended family, my mama, my sisters, and all that. Like, they're like a conglomerate thing, and I'm not really able to like be there by myself and like really siphon the energy from this power source. But it's still there. It's still considered a place of power. So I wanted to touch on that too. It's like people feel like they have to designate these spots as some kind of sacred thing, and then when they go to it, now sometimes that might work to generate that feeling in your brain. You know, you go to this one spot, you venture there like a pilgrimage, you venture there, and then I'm only coming to do the hedge writing or to do the trance work or to really siphon the power and put it in some kind of magical vessel for later. That might help too, to actually designate. Now, I don't designate places because I think their destinies are bigger than that, but that's just my opinion. I think that these natural places of power are the ones where there's the most pure elements, right? Like light, land, sea, and sky, where these converging places where fire, earth, air, and water meet. Okay? Ley lines are strong too. That's an energetic thing. Okay? Different than elemental. For me, elemental magic and energy magic are different. Now, I'm not saying elements have energy, but energetic magic is different than elemental magic. There's a weaving there. They're different. They're just different. So when I find a natural place of power, like the seashore, lakeshore, stuff, places like that, where most of the elements could converge, and then you have the ley lines. You have energetic places of power, right? You have spiritual places of power. These are the otherworld portals, right? That you make up through, like I said, through some sort of verified personal gnosis, made up channeled incantation, channeled summoning, okay, something like that. The whole point for me, and the question that I ask myself all the time is, does it matter that this is a place of power? Does it matter that this would possibly be no one else's place of power? No one else. Does it matter to me that other people tread here? Does it matter to me that people could potentially contaminate this place of power? Does it bother me, like in terms of eco-terrorism, right? Or just industrialization, right? Deforestation. Do those things impact these places of power? I think they do. The ley lines. How many ley lines have been destroyed? With the use of modern day electricity that we're never going to want to get rid of ever again. Have there been ley lines that have been siphoned because of real world applications, real world modernization? These questions plague me sometimes, because sometimes I'll think to myself, am I in the other world? Did I just make all this up? And it's really just my consciousness not really being altered. Like for that day, I'm just not into it. I'm too rational. I'm too on the nose about day-to-day life that I can't irrationalize the brain. Because for me, altering your state of consciousness is irrationalizing your brain chemistry for the time you are altered. You're irrationalizing it. Turn it irrational. Because your brain wants to be rational, okay? So I have to go through this kind of modality to irrationalize it. That's when I'll shift over and shapeshift and morph into the irrational brain, maybe you could call it the non-linguistic brain, okay? To alter my state of consciousness, which is the realm of magic. And then I can push forth my spirit, tether myself like Ariadne's thread, and venture. Now, some people, I wanted to stop talking like that for a second and move on to something else, okay? Some people talk a lot about the out-of-body experience, which is probably what most people think of when we think of astral projecting. But for me, the out-of-body experience is where the spirit ascends outside, again, out of the body, where the body's in this realm and the spirit goes, okay? Some people say that the spirit part of you is the place that houses the soul. If this is true, I don't want to travel without my soul, okay? I believe that my soul is going to be what's recognizable in the spirit realm, in all of them. My soul is going to be what they latch to. Now, again, this could be bad, okay? But my soul is going to be what the spirits recognize. If my spirit houses my soul, it's the soul part of me that they're going to recognize. I don't really want to travel without that. You know? So, again, that's something to be said too. Is that to form these out-of-body experiences, I want to make sure that my soul comes with me. And then I have a good tether back, too. As someone that's an advocate for shape-shifting, And I've made, not necessarily, I didn't tie it very well to witchcraft specifically, but I made a video sharing some of my opinions on shapeshifting. Okay, I'll leave it below. And I went into a little bit of depth there. I didn't, like I said, I didn't tie it well to my witchcraft practice or how I utilize it or anything like that, but I shared some, I thought, really good opinions. If you can call opinions good. Good opinions about what I feel on shapeshifting. But shapeshifting is one of those shamanistic practices and techniques that I hold very dear. I have a lot of value for that in my practice. In terms of the otherworld, part of riding the realms is finding spirits and communing with spirits. And some people in the Germanic hedge writing and Celtic otherworlds concepts would say that the spirit itself morphs into an animal or a beastie. I'll call it a beastie because it doesn't necessarily have to be an earthly animal. So a little beastie, this fetch, is what is going to the otherworld. Again, I think that this fetch would be our soul, the soul part of us that is the most recognizable in the other world, the other realms. They have shapeshifted into these beasties because that's our soul at its most essential level. And we send it out, we project it into the other realms, we ride the realms with these fetches, with this fetch. Usually it's just one. I think that's fascinating too, is that we don't necessarily have to do it. It could be our animal fetch or our beastie fetch. But it's a shape-shifting because it's our soul that's doing it. It's a brand of shape-shifting, which I find all manner of shape-shifting fascinating. One of the things that I wrote down this quote, okay, by Mircea Eliade, who wrote over a 600-page book on shamanism. Please buy it if you're interested at all in shamanism, okay? The shamanic costume tends to give the shaman a new magical body in animal form. The three chief types are that of bird, stag, and bear, but especially the bird. I agree with this, only that I would probably add some, okay? In most cultures around the world, there may not be a bear. There may not be a stag. There most always are birds. That's probably why it's the most prevalent. But you had to add some forms of animals that are the most prominent throughout most cultures, not just one or two. So I've added toads, hares, cats and dogs, okay, as modern domesticated animals. We have to include those two. And manner of other types of birds like bats. Okay. So, again, witchcraft animals. the ones mostly associated with witchcraft. And I think about the wolf. God, I think about the wolf a lot. I think about the wolf a lot, but I think about the fact that Mircea Eliade talked about the shaman's costume. Now, we all know from shamanistic cultures that they do dress up in these very elaborate looking costumes to be able to alter their state of consciousness and ride the realms. Okay? And whether or not we unleash our fetch through this, the symbolism, the semiotics of that is profound. Shape-shifting has got to be the oldest form of magic ever. And that is what I love so much about being fascinated by it. I love being fascinated, and I continue to be fascinated by it, because it's the oldest form of magic on Earth. Shape-shifting. The question I ask myself is, am I in the other world? Am I really, was that a trance? Did I really meet those spirits? Did I commune the right way? Was that an out-of-body experience, or just in my imagination? Was this just my meditation getting stronger and stronger, and I don't really know if I've hit the mark yet? I just tell myself to let it go. And when I ride, I get on the broom and I ride. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks of my practice. Just continue to be fascinated by it and try shit out. And if I feel like I need to protect myself and shield myself energetically and spiritually, I can. As I get more and more into my practice, if I feel like, you know how the greater the balloon expands, the scarier it gets, because you think it's going to pop at any moment? It's the same thing. It's the same thing with any practice. The balloon's getting bigger, and you're backing up from it. Don't back up from it. If it pops, okay, blow another balloon up, right? It's not blowing up your practice. And I don't believe that as we expand spiritually and energetically and soulfully, that if that balloon were to ever pop, it's just another form of shape-shifting. Ride the realms, baby. And recently got this off the shelf, okay? Never read it before. As y'all know, I have a problem. I buy books and then they go on the shelf and they call to me when they call to me, okay? It's really how it is. Somebody will say something about it. I'll buy it when I have the money, or it's sitting in my cart for years and years and years. And then I'll buy it, and then it won't be that time, right? It won't be that book in me's time. This one is the time for me. So I picked this one up. And again, Mircea Eliade's Shamanism book, all of his books, okay? But pick up the Shamanism book. It's pretty academic. It's the Oxford University Press. But it's a little academic, not as academic as Ronald Hutton, okay? And not as dumbed down as just a Magic 101 on shamanism, okay? Somewhere in the middle. It'll be a lot of work, probably, to read it. And it is for me. I haven't read it cover to cover. But it's soulfully good, okay? For the history, really. For the history. But I just got this off the shelf. In the Shadow of the Shaman by Wolfe. Look at this cover. Oh my goddess. Look at that cover. Connecting with self, nature, and spirit. I've heard really, really good things about this book from a lot of magical practitioners. And this was published in 1988. That's actually a special year. So 1988. Now, I don't know how outdated this is going to be. Okay, sometimes, you pick up them books from the 80s and you're like, ugh. Now, I will say that Spiral Dance by Starhawk was a seminal work in my practice. Seminal. Recoiling the Snake by Vicky Noble. Those were really good books for me because of the fascination I have with shamanism and how I wish to link it up with my own practice. Not that I don't want to siphon too much from those practices and take away from them in my heart and in my mind. I want to take what I know needs to be done with me. It's like our destiny, me and my magic's destiny. So I'm hoping that this isn't too outdated, but I love it. So if you want like my current recommendations on shamanism, pick this one up. Mircea Eliade's and Spiral Dance by Starhawk, Land, Sea, and Sky by Gede, Parma. And there's possibly more. Maybe I'll leave a list below if I think of any more off the top of my head. And if you have any shamanism, Otherworld, spirit work books, again, the other ones that are Roger J. Horne and Jasmyne Ambrosia's books too. If you have any others that talk about trance and talk about writing the realms and which one's which and whether it matters, leave them below. Ooh, my hair flying all over the place. So I'm really interested to start with this. I'm going to start the fall with this book. So I'm excited. Let me know if y'all have read this. Okay, I'm going to get off of here. I hope y'all are having a magical day. Okay? See you very soon. Much love.